We'll just deliver whatever.
Today on the news and why it matters, an update on impeachment and John Bolton's leaked manuscript. Also, new 2020 polls show some bad news for Joe Biden. Got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sarah Gonzalez here with, let me tell you, an all-star panel today. You're going to hear a lot from these guys. We've got the one and only Glenn Beck with us today.
I prefer to be called Colonel.
I'm sorry. Colonel Sanders or Glenn Beck?
I don't think you need to go into it. I am a Kentucky colonel. Okay, I am legitimately a Kentucky colonel. You can throw the Sanders after that, but I am a legitimate Kentucky colonel.
We've got double colonels here today because we've also got Colonel Alan West back with us today.
So I got ambushed. You didn't tell me that the Kentucky colonel was going to be here. Okay.
I have a feeling you outrank me.
Maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Not in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. At the Kentucky Derby, I don't.
And filmmaker and founder of Share Together, Yaku Boyens. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Got a lot to get into. First, we would like to thank our sponsor, My Patriot Supply.
So I have to tell you, I thought of something this morning as I'm reading about the, the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
They now have put 50 million people behind a wall somewhere. And they're telling everybody, don't go outside, don't do anything. If you don't have food, if you nobody's delivering to your house, we haven't seen anything like this, thank God, and hopefully we won't see anything like this again, but we haven't seen anything since like 1918, where back in
It's the largest quarantine ever, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Who else could do it? Who else could do it?
Only the Chinese.
I mean, that's crazy.
Let's get some stock in Uber Eats.
Right. They won't deliver. What you need is My Patriot Supply.
And right now they have 2 weeks worth of breakfast, lunch, and dinners. It keeps for 25 years in storage, and it comes in this really convenient box. You can, if you need to take it and run because you're running from the coronavirus, whatever the case may be, it is there for you. You can go to preparewiththeblaze.com. Save 45% right now on that 2-week supply kit. It is preparewiththeblaze.com. Don't wait until the emergency happens. Be prepared. Preparewiththeblaze.com. So, of course, Trump's defense, it happened all over this weekend. I know it was kind of unfortunate because everyone was talking about it during the week, and then we flowed into the weekend, and once, Trump's defense team started laying out their case, giving their arguments, not as much coverage on it. I just want to give a little bit of a brief overview before we get into the conversation of what it looked like with the whole brigade, the impeachment managers, walking all of their evidence over to the floor. Watch.
Gotta love the music.
Schiff could actually, he could actually pull that stormtrooper out. The guy who was, always was killed by Darth Vader, because he did something wrong on the Death Star.
Yes.
Schiff is kind of like that guy. They were always like kind of mealy mouth, kind of, really thin and creepy looking.
That's him.
Eyes are already protruding a little bit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That is him. So I want to get all of your thoughts on, how the impeachment trial is going. But let's also talk about, throw into the equation, John Bolton, former National Security Advisor. John Bolton, of course, Sunday came under fire over a report that was published in the New York Times that said that in his upcoming book, President Donald Trump directly tied financial assistance to Ukraine if they would announce an investigation into candidate Joe Biden. So, of course, from Maggie Haberman, she tweeted out, Bolton book draft circulated to associates, sent to White House for review process, describes a conversation with POTUS where he says he doesn't want to release, I want to pay really close attention to these words, he doesn't want to release withheld aid till Ukraine turned over material related to investigations. Glenn.
For one, I know John Bolton. I know you know John Bolton. I know him quite well. I have to tell you, I am sick and tired of people going to work for our government and then having something big, some big scandal, something that's really bad for the country. But wait. I need some cash to tell you in a book. John Bolton, I think this is despicable. There is nothing more pressing in our nation right now than to either remove the president because he did something wrong or put the president back on solid ground. What does he do? He writes a book and then it goes in, and who releases it? I don't know if you saw the Breitbart article, but we haven't been able to verify it ourselves. But if that's true, it looks like somebody else that was in the same line of testimony that we've already seen releases the book. I mean, think about the timing of this. Trump finally gets his say. It's on a Saturday, so nobody's paying attention to it. Then the Sunday, right before you get anything that is saying, okay, this is what they're going to do, this is released. CNN is all over it. They're starting to promote the book. They hate this guy. They hate this guy. And yet they're all finding him so credible. It stinks to high heaven. And honestly, I think John Bolton should be ashamed of himself.
To Glenn's point, Colonel, there was a live link to pre-order his book shortly after this scoop dropped. Coincidentally, right?
No, it's not coincidental. And it takes me back to what they say in the Middle East, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Exactly right.
And that's why CNN has all of a sudden adopted him. I wish these people would follow the model of General Mattis. Yeah, there may have been some, back and forth between him and the president, but, he kept the high ground. He was not going to allow himself to be drugged down to the muck and the mire to try to attack and undermine the president, because he understood that he served this country, he served at the behest of the president. And what I see happening right now, I don't know if John Bolton needs to be back in the news cycle, if his ego is so starved, but I do find this very petty and maybe a little bit vindictive.
I find it un-American. I find it almost anti-American, because we're dealing with this isn't like, hey, he said this and she said that and a squabble. This is, should the man be impeached or not?
Yeah.
There's nothing that is bigger than that, than war.
But Glenn, you and I were talking about earlier. We were all talking about earlier. Quid pro quo and all this stuff happens every single day.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
On Capitol Hill. Every time a lobbyist comes up and says, here's something that I want you to look at, and maybe I'll take you out to lunch. Here's a $5,000 check for your campaign. It happens every single day. So I am sick and tired of people that are acting like they have some type of moral high ground when they participate in it all the time. And again, like we said, when Barack Obama came out and said, after my reelection, I'll have more flexibility, nobody said anything about that. Nobody said a word.
Yeah.
And I said the lobbying system that whole system just lends to quid pro quo. But interesting, if you were to release a book, Mr. Beck, like you have so many times, and your media team did their job, as they normally do, would they not capitalize on this situation? If that's exactly what's happening.
Let me tell you.
There's people in his ear timing this, playing it like a fiddle, understanding that they all want to ride the coattails of the guy in the White House that they want to fire bullets at, right?
Let me tell you how this happened, in my opinion. You have a big book publishing house that I have been with. It's my last book with that publishing house. And I've been with them for years. They've had a change at the top. The guy who paid $8 million for Hillary's book that I don't even think left the warehouse ever, okay? And they are looking for tie it to anything, tie it to all books, tie it to anything. So they're coming to him and they're saying, you have something to say. We'll pay you a lot of money. So he doesn't tell the American people, because they're bribing him, saying, tell it to us first so we can capitalize on it. Okay?
We're going to bottle it.
Yeah, we're going to bottle it. We'll package it, but you have to time it.
Yeah.
You got to write it quickly, because we have to have it out during the impeachment.
If it's completely written already or not, we'll see. It's probably still in the edit, because I feel like they're pushing it, and it's orchestrated by the publisher. 100%.
100%. 100%.
No question.
But see
But this publisher happens to have political ideology as well.
And that's what upsets me, because when you came back to talking about being un-American or even anti-American, we have to start thinking about our country.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of thinking about our own little rice bowls and what is good for me and promoting my business, promoting my publishing house, promoting myself. And, you know, for a person that's been on battlefields, you know, spent 22 years in the military, that is what I find the most despicable, is that when you have men and women of honor, integrity, and character, that we have people like this that rise up to be in the highest echelons of our government.
You know, the books of our soldiers are always the best stories about us. And I have no problem with them profiting off of the best stories of their service. The stuff that comes out of Washington is always the worst. And it is the difference between the life of our republic and the death of our republic. In this particular case, it goes to just knock the legs out from underneath the republic. For cash?
It's unpatriotic. And Colonel, you just said something that really hits my heart. What is a country? A country is people.
Yeah.
And they like to separate in the public space country from people. There's almost a divide. That they speak about this country, but they're willing to completely abuse the people, right? And this is what's happening here. This is just a mud slap in the face to the American people, saying we're going to use this circus show and the office of the president to drive profit to a publisher, regardless of what it does to the people.
But I'm not sure this was leaked by the publisher. I think this was at a vetting point. What is that vetting point? You must know it. Where it's sent, I think, to the Pentagon, or was one branch.
Well, you would think it
intelligence.
would be, but again, you know, someone gets their eyes on it and they say, hey, let me tell you what I saw it was passing through. Because it's just the same when the Navy SEALs and some of those guys write about some of their exploits. They've got to get that check in the box, make sure they don't have any classified
Well, the
information.
guy who apparently does that is the guy, you might remember who he was. I can't remember him. He was the guy who was a witness against the president. He wore the uniform.
Yeah, Vindman.
and- yes, Vindman.
Yeah.
Wow.
His brother is the guy that apparently
Checks this off.
Stop.
Yeah, that's what Breitbart is reporting. We have not verified it ourselves.
Wow.
But Vindman's brother apparently is the guy that all this goes through. So I don't know if it was released by the publisher. It may have been released by Vindman's brother.
Well, and I mean, you know, obviously we haven't read the book. So, you know, we're working with the details that are provided to us by the New York Times. Take that for what it's worth. But even if you look at what they're saying, what is so wrong? You know, Colonel, you said something about doing what's in the best interest of the country and not just what's in the best interest of John Bolton. And I mean, you read even their wording, and it says he didn't want to release the aid unless there were investigations.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. That's what I'm like. Well, where's the smoking gun there? Because
not
if there
his
was
job?
corruption.
He
We would think that's his job.
He's a steward of our taxpayer dollars.
Right.
Yeah, I
Is that
mean,
not his
Right.
job?
It would have been wrong of him not to.
That's what I don't get. How is that not connecting with so many Americans?
Because I think the president made a wrong call early on, or his team, somebody in the White House made a call to say there was no quid pro quo. Of course there's quid pro quo. We're just going to, what, do you think the taxpayers want us just to hand money out and say, hey, no strings attached, do whatever, you lose it, you money launder
Like
it, you use it for
$150 billion
terrorists.
on a jetliner flying over.
Don't worry. Yeah,
Kinda
don't
like
worry
that.
about it. That's wholly irresponsible.
Yeah.
And they because I think Donald Trump had been so abused during the Russian investigation, and the thing that really mattered to him, at least in the first 2 years, I think, was I'm a legitimate president. Okay, Russia didn't win this for me. I won. So he's so in that mode. And when it came to, you know, look, he was trying to throw the next election. He wanted a quid pro quo. He's looking, in my feeling, he's looking at this as, they're saying I'm going to steal this next election too.
Yeah.
There is none of that going on. And so I think that's where the water got muddy with him.
I would have said very simply, why do you think the Sunnis stopped shooting at us in Iraq? Because we gave them money. Okay? And so what was that quid pro quo? We'll give you money, you stop shooting at us. Same thing in Afghanistan. This goes on all the time. And you're right. I think that if you have good, tight messaging and the right people to go out to say, Let me give you an examples of how this happens in our foreign policy every single day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Well, the Republicans did do that on Saturday. They said, "Oh, holding back foreign aid." Yep, Donald Trump's done it 5 times in the last 2 years. It's not just Ukraine. How come you only care about Ukraine? What about all the rest of them?
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Should we give money to Pakistan? We know they're harboring, Islamic jihadist groups within their borders.
But so has every president.
Yes.
Because it's part of business. It's part of what you do when you govern the freest nation.
Every single day on Capitol Hill, this is what's happening.
All right, more bad news for Joe Biden as we get closer to the Iowa caucus when we come back.
It'll be bad news for us. Knock him out. Where are they going to go to?
Yeah. I actually almost want them to run him as their horse.
Before we get back into the program, we want to thank our sponsor, Home Title Lock. So you may think if you have your security system set up at home that all of your stuff, your house is protected, right? If a thief comes in and tries to steal your stuff or anything in your house, their alarm will come off, the cops will show up and nothing will happen. But have you considered that a thief can actually go online and steal your home's title and mortgage just right out from under you online, and you never know it? You're not going to know it unless, they sell it and you lose all of your equity. Or, they show up at the door and they're like, hello, we just bought your house from this random person that wasn't you. Yeah, you don't want that to happen to you. The FBI calls home title theft one of the fastest growing white collar crimes. You're not going to know because no identity theft program, no bank, nothing protects you except Home Title Lock. So Home Title Lock puts a barrier around your home's title and mortgage, and they're constantly monitoring it. So if someone comes in, tries to hack into it, forge your signature, they are on it and they will shut it down and help protect your home's equity. We have got you 60 risk-free days of protection. All you have to do is go to HometitleLock.com, register your address and see if you've already been a victim. Because like I just said, you're not gonna know unless you go and register your address at HometitleLock.com. Don't let this happen to you. I know your equity is everything. It's most people's retirement. You got to go to HometitleLock.com, register your address. Make sure you are not already a victim of home title fraud. All right, new polls, several different new polls in Iowa and New Hampshire show. This is really, really tough to swallow. Bernie Sanders in full surge. Of course, the Iowa caucus is it's a week from today. And Bernie Sanders, very latest poll in Iowa, Bernie Sanders is at 30%, Joe Biden at 21%, Elizabeth Warren at 11% in one of them. Another one, Biden was at 17%, Bernie Sanders at 25%. And then in New Hampshire, a poll released late last week shows Sanders with a commanding 12-point lead over everyone, Buttigieg in second and Biden in third. And let me just give you this. Real Clear Politics, you know how they keep that running average of all of the polls. In Iowa, Sanders has gone from 18% just on December 1st to 25% this week. And then Warren has gone from 22.5, and she's done the reverse, and gone down to 13.5%. Glenn, should we be terrified yet?
I can't imagine the Democrats actually nominating him in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
There are going to be pockets where he's just rock solid. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine that would stand. I hope it does. I really do. All of the people who are at all moderate, and I mean moderate now is like, yeah, we can kill babies once they're born. I mean, that kind of moderate compared to his followers.
Right.
I just don't see them going out to campaign or vote for him, no matter how much they hate Donald Trump. The country right now, at least, this can change, but right now, it's pretty comfortable. It doesn't like what's going on in Washington, but it also doesn't like socialism. Mm-hmm. And he's got this weird thing to where he's not part of the system. So he kind of has this Donald Trump kind of feel to him, mm-hmm. where anything could happen. But he's also I would put him in the communist camp with what he's done. He's a communist. Yeah. And America does not want a communist.
Yeah, especially when you look at where we are economically in the United States of America right now. The fact that Bernie Sanders said, I don't know how much it's going to cost, these plans that I have out there. that's not the guy you want to give the keys to the economic car right now. The guy that honeymooned in the Soviet Union, the guy that kind of praised Hugo Chavez and look how things are going in Venezuela. We were talking off camera. They have driven themselves in an untenable position. Like Glenn just said, if you have a Bernie Sanders as your nominee, then there's a contingent of the Democrat Party saying, no way. May not vote for Trump, but they're going to say, I'm not showing up. And if you have someone else, if it's a Biden, then you got this whole other side that said, one of his operatives, if Bernie's not the nominee, we're going to burn Milwaukee down. This is how off the charts these folks have gotten. So I don't think that this is appealing to your real everyday average Joe and Jane six-pack out there in the United States of America to have the guy that was the professor on Back to the Future running their country.
Were you surprised at all?
That's an insult to Doc.
I know.
You mentioned the CBS interview where Bernie Sanders actually said, well, nobody knows how much it's going to cost, right? I can't tell you how much it's going to cost. Nobody knows how much it's going to cost. Were you surprised to see that CBS reporter push back on him the way that she did?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because I think there's going to come a time, and Glenn understands that they cannot allow this to be the face of their party. They understand that that is the worst case scenario for them. That's why Hillary Clinton came out and said, nobody likes him. He never got anything done.
Two things. When I was out in Hollywood, I met with some very big corporate people, left as they come. And they said, privately,
No way.
if they put Warren or Sanders in, it will destroy the economy. It will destroy our companies. While we're not telling the crazy actors this, and they generally believe the same crap, they're running as far as they can. One last thing. I found a clip from my show in 2004. If you remember when Jimmy Carter had Michael Moore in the presidential box at the Democratic convention. And I went back and I found that monologue because I saw what's going on right now, and I thought, I think I predicted this then. Wow. And in that monologue, I said, you think you are using them as fuel, but you're going to find out shortly that they're communists, they're revolutionaries, and when they have the upper hand, they'll eat you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing right now.
That's what I was about to say. You're going to see Bernie slide down that side towards communism quickly. If he's the nominee, it's going to go bad so quick, and they know it. Look, let's go talk to the CFO of Warner Brothers and Sony, right, and MGM. Ask that guy. You want Bernie or Elizabeth? And they'll say, no. No, actually, quietly, privately, it's going really well. Right now, the commander-in-chief we have today. It's always going to be the wallet. The American people will vote their wallet because it actually has made an impact.
Now, if we slide into, I'm concerned about this coronavirus. I'm talking if it's epidemic, kind of, our worst case scenario, that's going to really impact the economy. It already is in China. It's going to impact the world's economy. If this thing starts to crater, then that dynamic changes because then people are going to be hungry and they're going to be like, I need help. It's a fast turn, but remember, it wasn't really until July that I think it was Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns took that hit in July, and it was Lehman Brothers in September, October, and all of a sudden, only thing anybody talked about was the economy.
But I don't think anyone is going to turn it over to someone like a Bernie Sanders. But I tell you, the person that's sitting back and just waiting for all this chaos is Michael Bloomberg. This is playing right into his hands. That's why he said, I'm not competing in any of this early stuff. I'm going to sit back and wait for Super Tuesday.
Great point. All right, back in a minute.
Going to be the guy who rides in on the white horse.
He thinks. But again,
nobody's ever done it before. Like anything is.
Hey, don't forget, we've got Overtime coming up next. You can watch it on BlazeTV.com. We've got some media coverage of Kobe Bryant's sudden death from the helicopter crash. Some people suspended. Was it the right thing to do or was it not? We will get into that conversation. Also, we talked about it a couple times in the show, coronavirus. The coronavirus has hit the United States. Should we be all freaking out or should we just calm down and wait? We will have that analysis for you as well. You got to go to BlazeTV.com to catch it. We'll see you there.
Did you see the report from that nurse from